Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night from where or when you're watching this video. This is John from IT Skills Academy, and I take this opportunity to welcome you to IT Skills Academy. We continue to create the inventory management system, and this is episode 10. If you would like to follow along, I have provided a link to all the previous episodes in the description of this video. And if you want to download the whole project source code, find the link in the description of this video as well. Thanks to everyone who is subscribing and supporting IT Skills Academy. I don't take this for granted, and for that I say thank you. If you have not subscribed to IT Skills Academy, kindly consider subscribing. Turn that notification bell on for video updates. That out of the way, let's get started. But first, we roll the intro. Well, in this episode, we create the pause. And to get started with the process, we'll be using this button. So I link this button to a page called pause.php. I've not yet created the page. We'll be creating it with you in a second. So I link the button to a page called pause.php, and then I now create the pause.php page. So I click on new, and then I say pause.php. So now that the page has been created, and because I don't want us to waste time, I'll be using this template just to help us to save time. So I look for a template that I have saved in this project called empty_page.php. So this is just an empty page that we're just going to use to get started. So let me just maximize this one here, and I want to copy the whole of this code, and then I'll paste it in the pause.php page, the page that we've just created. So don't you worry, we'll be editing this template with you step by step. So I'm refreshing that because I want us to see how that looks like. So I click on the cells, and now this takes us to this empty page, as you can see. So this is what we'll be working on in this episode. So I get back to the text editor so that we now start editing the page. So the first thing that we're going to work on is the blend club here. So what I did is I duplicated that, and here I just want us to include or indicate the current page. So I just get rid of that link, and I just write pause. So on top here, I also want to make this or give this page a reasonable name. So I call it pause, and I remove the page because I didn't think we need that. So after that, I refresh the page to see if the changes were effected, and it is working fine. So now we can continue working on the page. So now I want to just come and have a comment on top here, just to be able to guide a person on what is happening. So here I say create a random number. So in this I'm going to include a code that will help us to create a random number. The random number that we are going to use as the invoice number. So I'll be providing the source code or this code in the description of this video, just in case you would want to use it. So it is just a code that is helping us to create a random number, and so I use it to create the invoice number of every sale that is being initiated. So down here I just come and create a variable called IVN, so that is invoice number. So that is one that is going to hold the random number that will be created, and this will be created every time the sales button is clicked. So now that we have that random number on top there, I'm heading down here, and I just want to come and first of all test if that random number is being created successfully. So here I wrote invoice number, and I'm just going to come and echo that specific number. So I write PHP echo the variable IVN, that is invoice number. So so after that I head on to the browser, go back to the index.php, and I click on the sales button. So that takes me to the post.php, and successfully I'm able to get the invoice number. So this being a random number, if I click on the sales button again it will create another unique number. So I'm just going to use that as the invoice number for now. So now that is working, I just get rid of that, and we now start creating the pause page. So I start by creating the row, because we already in the div container fluid. So I'm creating a row. Within that I'm also having another column. So in that column we are having a card, and in that we are having the card body. So it is within this card that we are now going to have the pause content. So we are going to put the content in the pause page in this card. So down here we'll have the canned title. So for that I have a comment called title there, and now below the title we are going to have the title in a h5 element. So I create h5, and within this I just come and write pause. So that is the point of sale, so that will be the title for that card. And now below that I'm just going to come and have another row, within which we are going to come and have at least 6 columns. So for that I say call md6, and now within this we are also going to have yet another row, and now within this row, so within that row we are going to have a column, and or at least 4 bootstrap columns rather. So for that I'm just going to come and create a div with a class of call md4, and I also want the items in these columns to be aligned at the center. So for that I'm going to come and have the align center, that is within the div that we've just created. Now within that we are going to have the form that is going to be used to submit the things that are being bought, so or the items or the products. So I create a form with the method of post. For the action we have just left empty for now, and because this form will also be submitting images, I'll also have it with a name type or of multiple / form editor. So this one will just help me to also be able to submit images. So now within the form, we are going to come and have a card, and this card will at least hold the specific product. So within the card, we'll have the card body as well. So here I highlight card body. So it is now within the card body that first of all I placed the image. So I have an image and it will have an alt text of a product image. This will be shown if the image is not available or if there is an error when trying to get the image. It will also have a name of image. So this again will help me to grab the specific product image, and it will also have a class of image fluid. So this again will just make it to be responsive. And just to align it, I'll just have the py2. It will also have a width, and for the width I'm going to give it 100 pixels. Yes, and we now want to see where we have the images, like the path. So I'm now checking to see the path. So we have the images in the assets folder, in the images, and from there we have it in the products images. So I'll be linking this very first image here, that is image1.png. So I come to the image source, and here I highlight assets, images, product images, image1.php. After having a h5 with a class of secondary, I first of all check to see if I'm able to get the image successfully. So I get to the browser, I refresh the page, and here as you can see we are able to see the image that we've just included there. So now here we have now the title for that specific image. So I'll just come and give this a random name, that is big bag. You can just give it any name or have the actual name of the given product. So I duplicate that, and just notice that I have a typing error here. So I have another h5 below the previous one, and this one will be for the price of this specific product. So for this one I can just come and give it $10, just have the actual price of that given product, or let me just have it with $20. So now below the price down here, we're now going to have the input field. This one will be used to put the number of products purchased. So it will have a type of number, and of course I'm going to give it a class of form control. This is just to style it because we are using Bootstrap here. And I also had the value, so for this the value will be 1, that is the default value. And now after that, down here I have the button. So this is the button that will be used now to submit the purchased product or selected product. It will have a type of submit because we want it to be able to pass the information through the form. So we also give it a name of and to cart. So this is very important when you'll be passing information via the post method. And I'm also going to come and give it a class here. So it will have a class of btn warning. So I forgot to include class, so we should have class here is equals to btn warning. So I'm going to collect these in a second. So let me just have the button name. So that will be add to cart. So that will be the name of our button. And instead of having the name add to cart, I'm thinking of how we can have the shopping cart icon, but first of all, let's see how that looks like so far. So we refresh the page here, and this is what we have. Yeah, everything is looking fine other than the button. We need to fix the button. So we need to have it with btn warning. In this we only have btn warning, so let's just add another btn there. So that is should have a class of btn. So if we refresh that, that is what we have, and just like that, that's how I want it to look like. So but we need to have a space between the button and the input field. So for that we can just have a break. So I'm just going to come somewhere here. So yeah, but first of all, before we separate that, let's just have the icon, the shopping cart icon here. So I'm just going to come and have the Crash Fafa shopping cart, and so I refresh that, and we now have the shopping cart icon there, but we need to make it fit the size of the input field. And so for that we go to the button class and add a btn block. So this will make it fit the available space available, that is the number of columns provided for that product. So if I refresh that, that's what we have. And so now we can be able to separate the button and the input field for now. So between the input and the button, I just have a break. So that is BL. Yeah, so first I had 2, but I realized that the space was too big. So that is, as you can see, if I refresh that, yes, we have the space, but it looks to be excess. So just get rid of one of the B breaks there. So after refreshing, the space was reasonable. Okay, so now you can see we now have the input field that will help to change the number of products purchased, or that one wants to purchase. Alright, so now that is working fine. Alright, so just to make the card stand out, we add a class of BG light to the card body, and so after refreshing that, we now have the card with a background of gray. So here I want to duplicate this card. So first what I did is to have a comment here just to help me understand where the card starts and where it ends. So I have the card starting on top there, and I also have the card ending here. So I write a comment that is card ends here. So now with that, I can be able to select the context of the card and duplicate it, so that now it looks like we have several products displayed in the space available. So I highlight that, and then I duplicate that. So just going to duplicate that as I've mentioned. So I'm just using the keyboard shortcuts, Shift Alt and the arrow pointing downwards. Then I'll flash that, and those were the results. As you can see, I've just duplicated the card, and now we have those duplicates in the available space there. So now what we're just going to do is to edit those specific cards, so that now it looks as if they have different products. So for that, we head back to the IDE, and the first thing that I did was to change the images. Yeah, just change the images. So we'll have image 1, we'll have image 3, and all of that. So let me just change the images and then see how that looks like. So after changing the images, I just reload or refresh the page, and these were the results, or these are the results. So now I'm just going to do a few edits to just change the names, so that we just have the names corresponding to the images. Well, so now here we are going to come and have the cart items. So these will be within a div with at least 6 columns. So we also have the title card items within a H3 element, and within that we have the form. So this one will be helping us to again insert this into the database. So those are the items, and below that we have the HR that will just help us to have just a line below the text. So if I refresh that, those are the results, or that's what we have, cart items. So we are now going to have all the items that the customer has selected appearing in that area there. And so now down here I have a table. So I created a table and gave it a class of a table, and also a class of v middle. It will also have an ID of CRUD, so we'll be using this later to insert the table contents into the database. So ID with a class of CRUD. Now, of course, now within the table we are going to have the column headings and the records. So we'll start with the column headings. So for that, first we have the table rows. So we'll have the TL, and it will have a knowledge color. So for that, we give it a class of BG warning. So now within the row, we now have the table headings. So that is the TH, and the very first column here will be the invoice number. And now we're going to duplicate this so that we have several headings, table headings here. So when we have it like this, I'm now just going to come and edit this. So I just came here and removed the invoice number, and I'm going to come and replace it with the product name. We'll replace this with the quantity purchased, and this one will be price. We're also going to have down here another column heading for the price. In that case, I repeat it, but I'm going to fix that. And now here we have the amount. We'll also duplicate that because we also want to have the action. So that is the button that can be used to remove the product. Well, after that, now we have the records. So we are going to have yet another row, and now within that row we are going to have the TD, that is the table columns. And we're just going to come and have it with content editable. So that is to help us to have a table that will have content that can be edited. So for that, we'll say content editable is equals true, and it will also have a class. So we'll give it a class of invoice. So this one will not necessarily help us in styling, but it will help us in inserting the data into the database. So that is later in our next episode. So so the first one here will be the invoice number. So I just come and have a random number here, invoice, that random number. So for this now to just be a static number for now, but in our next episode we'll be including some PHP, so that now we grab this from the database. So I'm going to duplicate that because we want to have several records displayed here. So for that, I now came here and edited this. So this is now to have the product name. So just come and have the product name here. So for this, I'm just going to come and have a random product name. So just have the big bag, and next we'll have the quantity. So I can just have a random number again here, so maybe just 2. Assume the person bought 2 big bags. And we'll also have the price. So this will be the price for 1 bag, and the amount now will be the total amount based on the number of products purchased. And we can now get rid of that extra price column heading there. Yeah, so that is now fixed. And so that will also mean that we also need to get rid of 1 column here, or we can just have it like that, and we'll be having it with action. Okay, let's just first of all get rid of it, see what happens. And now this will be the action button. So I'm just creating a link here, and I'm going to have it with a class of btn Adeja. So this should be in quotes. And so it will have just a minus, or you can just have the word delete. Well, let's go back to the table rows, and here we want to have the amount. Forgot that there. Having purchased 2 items of $20, the amount will be 4 or 40 rather. So when I refresh the page, that's what we have. So we have the invoice number, we have the product name, we have the quantity, we have the price, and we have the amount, and we have the action button. Now after that, I also wanted to know the total bill for that specific customer. So now below the table here, I included a place where we can have the total of all the items purchased. So here I have a comment, total, and now below that comment, we're just going to have a small table here, just to help us to align the total properly. But first of all, we'll create a div and align the items to the right side of the table. So after that, now within this div, we're just going to come and have that small table that I've talked about, and it will have a class of a table as well, and it will be borderless. So now within the table, we're just going to come and have a few a row first. So we'll first of all create a row, and now within the row, what I did is I'll have several columns. So the first columns, we're just going to leave them empty, and we're just going to have content on our last column. So this will just help us to have the total aligned to the right side of the table. So this is just one of the ways that you can do that, but it might not be the only way. So now we have the total there, and this is where we will be echoing the total bill. And so we are going to have yet another column here, so that we have the value itself on a different column, so that now the two, that is the total and the value, are aligned properly. So we can just have the value there. In this case, we can just have the 40. So now after that, we want to have the button that will be used to now submit those records into the database. So we are creating a div with a class of row, and we are also having it with a column. So that is 6 columns. So I say call md6, and I'm also going to align it there. So I say py2. Yeah, so just styling it a little bit there. So now within this, we're going to have the button, and the button will have a type of submit, and also the name submit. So the type will be submit. So here, instead of having btn, we want to have the button with a class of submit, because we'll be using it to insert the data into the database. But because we'll be using Ajax, this might not be of much help. So we're just going to have it with a class of button for now, but if need be, we'll fix that later. So we give it a class of btn success, and we also want it to be a block, so we add the class btn block, yeah, just to make sure that it fits that available space there. And now we have the name of the button, so we're just going to have the name of the button somewhere here. So that will be save. So now we have that there, and I'm just going to duplicate that because we also want to have yet another button here. So for this one, it will have a class of warning, and the button name itself will be continue. So we head on to the browser and refresh and see how that looks like, and that's what we have. So we have the button to save and the button to continue to the checkout. And if you want to see if that is responsive, as you can see, this is very much responsive. All our products are all over there, but we need to fix the table. As you can see, the table is not responsive for now. And so what I did to fix that, so that the table is responsive, we'll add a class here of table responsive. So table responsive, so with the help of Bootstrap, the table will be responsive, but we'll be getting rid of this because I noticed later that it will not work well having it in that small table there. We're just going to see how that will look like in a second. So I'm also going to include this class within this div here. So I just include it here, so that is a table responsive. So if we now restore the page and then we refresh it and then scroll down there, you can see yes, now the table is responsive, but we have to scroll bars down here. That is because we have the two tables having a class of table responsive, and I think we don't need these for now. So I just get rid of the table responsive on the total page. So when I refresh that, we now get rid of one of the scroll bars here, because for the save and continue and the total tables, they are all responsive. They can all fit that available space. And that's it for episode 10 of how to create an inventory management system, where we were creating the posts. We just dealt with the HTML, and in our next episode, episode 11, we'll now be incorporating the PHP and also inserting it into the database. If you enjoy the content and you have not subscribed, kindly consider subscribing to IT Skills Academy. Turn on the notification bell for video updates, and if you have already subscribed and you're following my content, I say thank you. So as usual, see you in the next one. Bye.